underneath the lovely London sky.
Hello, welcome to this video. I haven't worn this jacket on my channel since, I don't even know, but I love it. It's denim. It's it's a lot distressed, but it's got rose patches on it, and I love it. It's from Boohoo. They might have something similar now, but this is from 2 years ago, I think. But I do love it, and the pockets are massive. I like this whole thing is a pocket. Love it. One thing that we need to talk about, hold on, that there is not enough fat representation in books in general. I see on book Twitter and stuff, everyone is talking, and I've seen so many lists and compilations of representation for other minorities, books that have LGBT representation, that have POC representation, but not that many, hardly any, basically zero threads of books with fat representation in them, because I feel like they just don't exist. And if they do, a lot of the time, they're about dieting and a fat girl who diets and then isn't fat anymore, and different media form. But there's a lot of TV shows at the moment. Insatiable, it's kind of a year old now, but that is not fat representation. No. And like, you know, Thor could have been done in a way that was great and that would be really, really helpful, showing the effects of PTSD, but just wasn't. And for me personally, I want a fat character who is fat, but not their whole life centers around being fat, and that there's something else to them. And I found it very difficult to find books like that, but I have two, well, technically three examples of this that I'm going to share with you and why I like them. And then I want you, if you have any, to comment them down below or tag me in them on Instagram or Twitter or anything like that, because I really want to read it. I really want to give my money to these authors who are writing the stories that mean something to me, because I cannot remember having a fat character in any of the TV shows I watched as a kid, any of the books I read as a kid, and it's quite sad because fat people do exist. I existed when I was a kid, so what's happening? What's happening, peeps? What's happening? Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about is Dumpling. You guys know I friggin' loved Dumpling when I read it. I was obsessed, hardcore stan, loved it. Absolutely adored it. Absolutely adored Willowdene Dixon and all of her flaws and all of her internalized fat phobia. And I absolutely loved all the other characters that Julie Murphy created in that series, well, that book. And then I read Dumpling, and I read this quite recently. It took me a month to read it because girl has a reading issue. Here it is. It is red, hence why I dressed red, well, kind of red today. This top is more orange, but anyway. And honestly, this series changed my life. And I'm not going to be too extra putting that out there. I had been in a reading slump for probably 5 years plus, and I picked up Dumpling at the beginning of this year, and I have not been in a reading slump since. Yes, it's taken me sometimes a while to read a book, and yes, I've only read like 22 books this year, but I've never felt more seen by the first chapter of a book ever. And I've talked about this before. There's a whole video on my channel about my two favourite body positivity books. and I've read it out on like basically all my social medias, but there's a section in Dumpling. I don't have it because I moved house and I already took all of my read books over and I hadn't finished Pudding by then, but there's a section and it's talking about how fat isn't an insult, and it's basically something that I've said since I sort of found the body positivity, fat positivity movement, and it hit like really close to home. And I was really excited to find out about Pudding. I had to read it in paperback because I hate hardbacks, so I bought this when it came out in paperback. I think I actually pre-ordered it, and this is even better. How? You would think, how is this even better? So in Pudding, you have all the characters from Dumpling. It's set after Dumpling, but the main character is actually Millie from Dumpling, and there's another main character, and this is a girl called Callie who's also in Dumpling, and if you've read / watched Dumpling, you might know who Callie is. And the way this book explores internalized fat phobia and diet culture and racism and mixed race families and the sort of cultural situation in Texas, and just everything is so important, and all the characters are so flawed that you sort of, a part of the book, Millie and Callie are pitted against each other, but a few chapters in, you've seen that they're both actually a real person that you could empathize with and that you could be friends with. And that's what I loved about Pudding and Dumpling, because all of the characters are so flawed and realistic. And I'm sick to death of books with protagonists that just are like perfect and that they're ready built activists for their field, or they're like, you know, they're perfect fat, which doesn't exist. Sorry to break it to you. People do have internalized isms. Like, I'm sure, I don't know from experience, but lots of people have internalized homophobia, and lots of people have internalized racism, and it's a problem that we need to tackle as well as the homophobia and the racism, because people shouldn't feel that way about themselves, even if the horrible people in the world feel that way about them. And seeing characters that are flawed and realistic and are still working through these problems that we as people work through is so refreshing. And my goodness, if you're fat and you haven't read Dumpling and Pudding, just read it and watch the Dumpling movie, because oh my god, I have never been happier watching a book to movie adaptation. Actually, there's 2 book to movie adaptations that I really love, which doesn't happen that often, really. I feel like book to movie adaptations can often be as bad as like the Percy Jackson situation, which, let's not talk about that. The other one is Every Day by David Levithan. That movie is incredible and it really captures the essence of that book. However, I'm going to stop talking about Dumpling and Pudding. Dubbing is Pudding and Dumpling together. Anyway, so the next book that I am not finished, I am reading, I'm only maybe a 1/5 of the way through, is No Big Deal, which is by Bethany Rutter, and she is a fat author, but she is British, and this book is set in Croydon, which, if you're British, you know what Croydon is. And one thing that I actually found with Pudding and Dumpling is that I related so much to the fat life, I guess, that the 2 girls in that book went through, but I couldn't relate to the society, because as much as America and the US, that's the same place, America and the UK are similar. They're actually a really different sort of place to live in, and the culture is different. And I found that one of the only things that I sort of struggled a little bit with was this culture that I just didn't quite get, and that I didn't feel 100% like I could be one of those characters, which is obviously not a flaw, but I just needed to read something based in England, and this book is it. And so far, what I've read, I've absolutely loved. And the main character, she's called Emily. I really like it. And Julie Murphy likes this book, who is the author of Dumpling. This book actually came out really recently, and there were early copies available at Yalk, but I didn't have any money when I went to Yalk, so I couldn't buy it, and it was really annoying because Bethany Rotter was doing a signing, and I really wish I could have bought this at Yalk and had her sign it, but alas, I did not have the money. But I went to the Celebrate Everybody panel, and Bethany was on the panel, and I really think that this is going to be great, and I'm not sure if she has written anything else, but I will be looking that up, and I will be reading anything else that she does write. And I've actually had the most heartwarming interaction with her on Instagram today, which I would like to share to you. So I tagged her in this Instagram story, and I think she liked it and she reposted it, and I said that I think Emily might turn out to be one of my favourite characters, and she said she was really excited to hear that. And then I said that I loved putting the dumpling, but with Emily being British, I think she's a little bit more relatable to me. And she said that I think that there's not that many fat positive main characters from Britain, and it's so true. And so here I am, quickly back here filming a clip for this video. I'm actually currently editing it, but I finished, no big deal, and I adored it. And I did have a conversation with Bethany, and she's actually an alumni of UCL. Crazy. We had a really great conversation on Twitter. I might leave part of it on the screen, but I love it when authors are interactive with their readers, and I just love books that make me feel so many emotions. And the main character, she's fat and she wants to go to UCL. Who does that remind you of? If it's not me, then you haven't watched enough of my videos. But yeah, I just wanted to add this clip in here because, yeah, excited isn't the word. I'm just waiting here for the books and for the recommendations. And if you have any, please, excuse me, give them to me, because I would be so excited to read them. You have no idea. And I'm so excited to finish this because I actually took an Instagram photo of this book today in the middle of the road. So please go and like it and say why you stand in the middle of the road. Take an Instagram picture. But the road just looked really symmetrical, and I just needed to do it. So some things I think we need to improve when it comes to fat rep is, first of all, there needs to be more of it. Second of all, the characters need to be more flawed, and they need to honestly, like, be from different places. I really want to read about more British fat people, and I want to read about fat males. I don't just want to read about fat girls. Like, fat boys exist too. What is happening? Why ain't they on our pages? Am I right or am I right? So, if you have anything to add to this really rambly video, please let me know. And do follow me on all my social medias. I always post about being fat because I am fat. Thanks for being a faithful, and thanks for watching.
underneath the lovely London sky.